sorry, did I miss someone? I did. Nelson.
Yes, good afternoon. Nelson Lopatin. I'm with the Brighton Chamber of Commerce in Rochester, New York, upstate New York.
Marvelous, marvelous. We now have people from both coasts, kind of all over the country, which is wonderful and amazing.
There's a Mark Liddle trying to connect there. But connecting to audio, it says anyway. I'm not sure if he can hear us, or maybe he can type in the chat if he can. Well, maybe he'll come back.
Maybe he'll come back.
What's Colin and Darin?
Well, we're going to introduce our speakers separately. So we have 3 speakers today, which I'm very excited about. We have Colin Murray, who is the director of Darin by Local and does some of the most amazing events I've seen across the country. And he's going to talk about taking the challenges and taking some of his events online. We have Jennifer Rubenstein, who is with the Louisville Independent Business Alliance, who also is one of the most creative, get it done, interesting directors we have out there. And then I'm really interested in listening to Darin Petersen as our 3rd speaker, who we'll bring on in a minute, with Common Change in Oakland. And I'll talk about why Darin is here and what different perspective he brings to the table when I introduce him. So, and here's one more person coming in. So since we haven't officially started, let's let them introduce themselves. Heather, can you hear me? Maybe.
Takes a minute to get connected on the audio.
Yeah. Here's one. Let's give Heather 1 minute. Heather, can you hear us?
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Heather Alto. I'm with the Central Virginia Business Coalition in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I'm the executive director there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Glad to have you with us, and we're just getting started. So I would like to start today's conversation with our first of our 3 panelists, Colin Murray of Darin by Local. Colin, you've done some pretty amazing things online and have taken a lot of your events online. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the biggest one was an event that we've done for a number of years called the Biz Awards. This was obviously an in-person event that we were doing before. It was an evening event, heavy hors d'oeuvre reception type of thing that started at 5 o'clock. You could basically eat dinner with the hors d'oeuvres that we had. And then at 7 o'clock, we had a program that lasted an hour and 15 minutes, something like that, recognizing members that have done great things in the community and also for Darin by Local. So it was a combination. And the process that we went through is a nomination form that people would fill out online, a Google form. And then a committee would sit down and review all of the applications and choose anywhere from 8 to 10 businesses, members that would be recognized at the night. No one knows the winners in advance other than the committee. So it's a surprise. That does help to boost ticket sales. So you invite all of those that were nominated to come to the event and find out if they won or not. So just like the Grammy Awards, right? And some people, just before I get into how we changed it, some people have said, well, why aren't you doing a vote where the public chooses who they like to be recognized for a particular business? And this is purely my opinion, but that's a popularity contest, and it's all about who you can get to vote for you. You get your neighbors and friends and relatives and whoever to vote for you, and it's not necessarily recognizing those that are doing really good things in the community as opposed to those who are really popular. So not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what we wanted to do. The goal of this event is to recognize those that are doing great things, and it's not necessarily just those with deep pockets. So a number of our businesses that we've recognized through the years are one person working in their home, organizations, they have very modest income, but they're doing something that is really meaningful in the community and with Dane Buy Local. So those are the ones that we want to recognize. So that's been taking place for a number of years. I think we're on maybe year 10 or 11 that we've done this through a couple of different variations. So through Dane Buy Local, specifically when we took over the event and it really was in our lap, that's been 6 or 7 years that we've done that. So, and one of our members has a beautiful facility here that has a big wide open reception area in the front of their office complex. And then they have an auditorium just off of the reception area that seats about 400 people, which is way too big for what we need, because we usually have about 150 people attend. So we try to tighten that up a little bit as far as the auditorium is concerned, so it doesn't feel like it's real empty. But that's how it's been set up in the past. Well, obviously none of that was going to happen this year. We usually do it in the fall, October. So we got talking to one of our other members who's really become very talented at doing specialty events on Zoom. So all the bells and whistles that Zoom has, you probably are at least aware of some of those things that they can do for you. And so he put together a program with us. One of the pieces that we had to get rid of was the surprise element of those who actually won. So we were concerned about connectivity with Zoom and how that was all going to work. And just like this program here, some people's connections are better than others. There might be some issues with that. So we decided to reach out to each of the winners in advance and bring them in for an acceptance speech that was recorded in advance. So at the point that they recorded their acceptance speech, they didn't know that they were going to win. They just thought that they were getting together with all the other nominees in their category, and we would announce it, and then whoever the winner was going to be accepting their award. Well, trying to orchestrate 75 or 80 people to all get on at the right time and be connected and blah 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 was more than we could handle. So we had 12 awards this year too, which was another challenge, more than we had had in the past. So we arranged for just the winner to come, not knowing at the time that they were connecting on Zoom that they were actually the winner. And each of the categories is sponsored by somebody. So each of those sponsors then would read the category. So this is making a difference in Madison type category. And they would read the 5 or 6 nominees that were sent in to us. And then they rip open the envelope, just like the Emmys, and would read the winner. And usually the presenter, about half the time, doesn't know who the winner is either. So it's a surprise to them. So they rip open the envelope, they read the winner, and then we record the response that the person had that is on the call with us at that time. So that was all done in advance. And then the presentation itself, we actually went to the studio of the company that is pulling the Zoom program together for us. He has now set up an in-house studio so that we could interact. There were actually 2 cameras running on the studio area. So it was myself and the MC, which was one of the TV station personalities, who's also a member of Dane Buy Local TV station. And so we would go back and forth as far as interaction was concerned. She really did the majority of the work, and I just watched it all unfold. So So she would go through the process and introduce each of those recordings that took place then. And we ended up with about, I think there were about 75 people that attended. So attendance was down from what we would done live, about half. And that affected obviously sales because we sell tickets to all of that. So there were definitely some things that we would do differently, but we did pull it off. It all came together. There's always challenges with technology. The company that we worked with tried to avoid as much of that as possible. We didn't have any glitches the night of the event. Everything was nice and smooth, but they were really good about planning that out in advance so that we avoided all of those issues with connectivity and sound and lights and everything else. So it's a different production that takes place with that. So, yeah.
Well, Colin, first, bravo for even trying that on that scale. That was, and I watched part of it. It was really pretty wonderful. It was just awesome. Well, what I'd like to do is we have time after each speaker for a couple of questions and that we can take if anyone has questions. And past a couple, we're going to ask that you save them till the end, and then we can ask all the questions. So does anybody have a question for Colin?
What was the charge for tickets to attend? Or was there?
Oh, that was a big conversation that we had. In previous years, we had charged $25, which meant heavy hors d'oeuvres, 2 drinks, and then the program itself, which was quite a deal. So we decided to leave the ticket price at $25 and in hopes that people would want to support the cause. That's probably part of the reason that ticket sales were down, because you really didn't get anything for your $25 other than access to the event, to the awards program. If I was to do that again, I would probably put together a goodie bag option that for your $25, we would get a goodie bag of things that we would have delivered to you prior to the event. So I did attend another event that was kind of similar to what we did, but on a larger scale. They had 900 people attended, and they sent out a goodie bag, and their ticket price was $75 for theirs, which was the same price as their in-person event. And you got lunch with that, right? Well, you don't get lunch with being virtual, but in the goodie bag, there was a $20 gift card to one of the local businesses, so that you could actually go and get lunch ahead of time and eat it then if you wanted to during the program. So yeah, so $25 is the short answer to your question. Sorry, go ahead.
Just adapting to the situation and making it appealing. Well, I hope that we are never in a position again where you have to take the awards show online, that you might choose to take some things online. And so I hope the conversation of what would you do differently really helps other people. And I hope you never have to use that again. So that next time the awards come around, we'll all be gathering again.
Right, yeah.
And if you could give like just one piece of advice, what was the piece of advice that you would give someone thinking about taking their awards online?
I just heard this the other day, is, just plan on something's going to go wrong, just plan on it, and keep the perspective that nobody died as a result of the problem. It is what it is. Just deal with it, right. And move forward. So as long as nobody died, we're all good.
That's a great standard. Does anybody else have a question for Colin before moving on? And you can always ask questions.
Personal standard is no one lost a limb. So that's what I usually say.
There you go.
Have a theme. We have a theme, I love it. Well, that's a good segue, Jennifer. We'll come to you. So we haven't lost a life, and now we're not going to lose any limbs either. Jennifer, I've known Jennifer for years, and I just want to take a moment to talk about one of the big benefits of membership in Amoeba is this kind of connectivity with each other, that once you meet somebody, even if it's on Zoom, it's easy to pick up the phone and say, so exactly, how did you do this part of that? Or I'm thinking about this, and what mistakes did you make? And Jennifer and I over the years have done so much trading like that, of saying, okay, don't ever do this event. It was a big mistake. We did it. We survived it. We'll never do it again. Do something different. Or, oh, you took a completely different approach than I did. What a great idea. And it's that kind of resource. We're all kind of alone in our cities because there aren't two independent business alliances anywhere. And so this is such a marvelous way to connect with your peers and learn from each other. There's no need for everybody to reinvent the wheel all the time, sometimes maybe, because chances are somebody out in amoeba land has already done what you're thinking about doing and can give you great advice. So use it as a resource. And we're going to do that right now. Moving on to Jennifer. Jennifer, you've done some pretty remarkable things online too. So why don't you tell us about them?
Well, the main one I'm going to focus on is kind of a networking event that we do. First of all, I want to give props to Heather, who dropped off the call, I guess, but I'm curious about her Christmas store too. I've been quite busy getting ready for shoplocallou.com to launch, which is our online marketplace. It's a multi-vendor e-commerce store, but that's not really an event, so I'm not really going to talk about that very much today. But if you want to get on my newsletter list, then you'll know when it opens, and I hope it's something that can be replicated across the country too. So I know Arizona is in the works with one, and there might be others too that I just haven't heard about yet. So my what I wanted to talk about specifically is something that's really super duper simple. So Colin, it's amazing, like bringing the whole event online and all that kind of building the excitement and all that sort of thing. And mine is a stripped down, basic networking type event. I think that there are a few things that differentiate it. So we use a Hop-In, which is an online tool. And Hop-In is meant to kind of replicate the whole conference experience. So there are a lot of different areas within Hop-In. Right now, we're just using the network aspect, but I'll talk a little bit more about the whole program in a minute here. It is $99 a month. So there is a cost, but we are getting sponsors for the networking event. So that is offsetting that cost. But we really, we realized later in the year, we're like, we just haven't done any good old fashioned networking. We were doing all these seminars and, like education and things like that. And our members were like, well, where can I just talk to people? Like, I want to connect to people and I can't connect to people anymore. So looking towards building that community, we did our initial we call it weird networking, keep people weird is, our slogan. And so we brought it online. The Hop-In technology is kind of neat because you go in, when you log in, you're in the reception area, and the reception area has whatever announcements you want to put in there and etc. So we say, if you're joining us between 11 and 11:10 a.m., please go to the main stage. So you click on the main stage, you go in there, and then you can see I'm doing a welcome, whatever the case is. Then we're like, okay, let's go to the networking area. So then click on the button that says networking. So it's kind of like almost even laid out like you're looking at a conference on your screen. So the networking area is pretty neat. It's a kind of a speed networking thing, like speed dating, but just for networking. You get 4 minutes. I believe you can change that time, but we've usually used 4 minutes per connection. So I'm in there and I say, and it shows me, here I am, and it says, are you ready to connect? And when I am, I click the button, it connects me to someone, and I get 4 minutes to spend with that person. So I see them, it's just like a one-on-one Zoom call. And, we trade information, we talk about various and sundries, and then you see, when you got 1 minute left, and then as many of you know from waiting, the breakout rooms and all that stuff. When you're done, you are done. So try to wrap it up as you're coming in, but sometimes there's some, awkwardness when you're mid-sentence and yank. But it changes color and it starts flashing when it gets down to 10 seconds, that sort of thing. And there's also a connect button on there. So it's that is the same as like trading business cards. So if I click connect and the other person clicks connect, then our information trades. And you can get that when you log back into your Hopin account. You'll see all the connections that you've made at various Hopin events. Really any Hopin event, because it could be that there's another organization in town that's using it. So any events you've attended there, so your Hopin account is always yours. You use it to attend whatever event you're going to attend. It's been very popular, and some of our members even prefer it to regular in-person networking, because they say, I hate networking. I hate it. I can't think of a way to kind of horn in on a conversation or introduce myself to somebody, or, whatever, that kind of awkward. You have to be a little outgoing, a little willing to, just go approach people. But with this type of networking, you're just randomly assigned somebody. So here you are, you're going to make some conversation with somebody. There's no like trying to figure out how do I approach this person, that sort of thing. What I meant to mention also, so when your 4 minutes are up, the screen will be blank and we'll say, click this button when you're ready to connect again. So if you need to go get a drink of water or something like that, you don't have to just immediately snap. You can take a minute, collect your thoughts or your notes or whatever, then click ready to connect. And as an administrator of this event, it is a dream because there's nothing I need to do. Like everybody's there, they're just bing, 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 talking to each other, all that sort of stuff. I will mention that there is a chat box on the side. So, occasionally, and that goes to everybody. So people will be like, oh, I love this. It's so fun. Or, or they'll be like, oh, so-and-so, it cut me off mid-sentence, but I meant to say great job or something like that, So that's another nice thing to be able to communicate with each other. We do put our cell phones in there for people to call us if they have problems. The first time around, we did have a couple of problems, but after that, we were a lot more specific in our directions about, what browsers work the best and that sort of thing. And we've not had any problems since then. So adding another layer onto this, we realized that, our members also want to meet other people in the community. And this is a time where I know folks, it's easy to get sick of Zoom calls, but let's face it, you don't have to travel anywhere to connect with somebody completely across town. So we set up the networking events now as networking around town events, and we get in touch with other area organizations, and they're always game. They're like, yeah, that sounds great. I'd love for our members to meet your members. And this has worked for both area networking groups. So far, we've done St. Matthews and Jeffersontown. These are kind of areas of town within Louisville. And then next year we have lined up like the Black Business Association. We're going to reach out to the National Association of Hispanic MBAs. Like there's just a lot of different groups that you can partner with. You've already paid your $99 for that month to hop in. So, you're just networking with who you can. Actually, I do want to mention though that Hopin does have, I think you get up to 100 attendees per month, and after that it's like 10 cents an attendee or something. It's not much. So and another great advantage is I have gotten members from the networking around towns, because I get to meet people that I don't ordinarily meet. So I've gotten, a lot of interest there, and then even have gotten a member that expired a few months ago. I was like, oh, I've been meaning to. I thought, let's do that, So I always participate in the networking as well, and I'm considering like getting the rest of my staff on here too, so that we can all be out there making new connections. So I enjoy that aspect of it as well. Let's see. I think that's everything from my notes here.
Well, I'm fascinated by what you said about people liking to connect that way, because you're right. It's always amazed me how many local business owners are really shy. Mm-hmm. And, coming into a group at a happy hour, they tend to stand in the corner, or they find one person they know and just talk to that one person, which kind of defeats the purpose of being at a networking happy hour. And this seems like a much, safe is not quite the right word, maybe comfortable environment, because then you're in your own environment, but looking at somebody on the screen who's in the same place, so you can just talk. Is this something you would continue like after the pandemic is over?
Yes, that's our plan.
Yeah,
that is our plan. While we're
sounds
heavy in pandemic, at least through the spring and the summer, we plan on running these about twice a month. We might bring that back some once we're able to do in-person events, but
sure, and a mixture, but there's, it's always, I think for everybody who's a local leader, it's a challenge because you have to give people all kinds of different points to interact at where they're comfortable. So some people love in-person events and they come and work that room, and some people don't. And so I think it's really helpful to have multiple ways that people can interact with you. And this sounds like something that would be a great opportunity, just ongoing. I love it. I love it. I'm already thinking about how to utilize that.
And I can't speak from experience, but we do plan to run our member summit through that software at the end of January. So we will be using the breakout rooms in there. They even have an expo section, but I just don't see where people would really like that, honestly. But it's there. You can explore it. Might be interesting, might work in some situations. But yeah.
If you can figure out how to make that work for you, then go for it.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Jennifer? Just a couple.
Real quick one. Does it cost anything for any of the other members to go on to hop in, or it's just through the organization?
Just the organization. And you can charge tickets, though. I have seen some. I got this technology from another local group, and she is actually a national organization, and she was charging for the networking portion anyway.
Jennifer, have you been successful in finding sponsors yet? You said you were working on that.
Yeah, we just decided, like, let's go ahead and get sponsors for this. We think this is a good enough thing. Like, it's proven its worth. And we plan on just asking like $75. Very easy to say yes to. And the sponsor can do an intro with us from the welcome stage. Usually it's myself, and whoever the leader is of the other group would have the sponsor as well. And, there's Hopin is very cognizant of that, and they have sponsor recognition, built in within the site.
That was going to be my other question, is the recognition. And I'm sorry, how often do you say you're doing this right now?
Well, so far we've only done 3 of them. But we are implementing, we want to do twice a month in the coming year, at least up through summer. We keep thinking of groups. We're like, oh yeah, and the Young Professionals Association, and Leadership Louisville, and there's just so many different groups for us to make connections with. So.
And how long is each event? An hour?
An hour. We run it. We usually have about 5 to 10 minutes for the intro, and then the rest for networking. I do find that after an hour, a solid 50 minutes of networking, you're kind of talked out.
Yes.
You take frequent breaks. I'm like, oh, let me hold on this and go think for a minute before I connect to the next person.
Yeah, that's a nice feature, that you can step away without disappearing in that way. So, well, thanks, Jennifer. We'll come back in because I'm sure there are more questions at the end of all of this. And I have lots, but I'm holding back. So that is an amazing, amazing resource. I'm definitely going to have to look that up. So next, I'd like to introduce Darin Petersen. And I met Darin because he handled Amoeba's conference. Our last conference was meant to be in person in Madison, but we all know what happened to those. So it went online. And I have to say that now we've heard a lot from 2 great local leaders talking about what they used, the software, how it worked, kind of the nuts and bolts of how this is done. But one of the things that I really appreciated about Darin was rethinking an online event. So when we did the Amoeba conference in October, I have to say, when I first saw the schedule, I was just like, how is that going to work? I don't understand. But it worked beautifully. And the thought process behind it was, there was a lot of, Okay, so we know how to share information online, right? Everybody's done it, especially in the beginning. There were lots of webinars, as Jennifer said. So we know how to do that. We know how to do some networking things online. But really, one of the full experiences of going to a conference are the conversations in the hallways and the people that you meet at the happy hour that evening, or you go out to dinner with, and how can we possibly kind of capture some of that experience, but online. So Darin's going to talk a little bit about how to think about this and how he approached the Amoeba conference, because he did just a brilliant, brilliant job with it. So Darin, want to take it away?
Hey, thank you. It's great to be with you guys today. So one of the things that I want to say right off the bat is that what I encourage you to do as you're convening people together is, especially online, is how do you bend the technology to the human experience? And so you really want to be able to bend that technology to the desired human experience that you're looking to be able to create. And part of that is understanding, in essence, what you're convening people for. And really kind of focusing in on that becomes very, very key. And some of that you've heard already from Jennifer and Colin being able to talk about how they had a particular event and how they were looking to be able to pivot that. And one of the things that becomes a driving factor in that is understanding how do you try to get the technology to essentially disappear so that it doesn't become a barrier for that human experience. Well, that starts with me. So one of the things that you can see right now is that I have not the greatest lighting. What I mean is I have a light that's right above me and it's creating down shadows. So when you're looking at me, it looks like I have bags right around my eyes. This is the kind of thing that we don't give each other feedback on oftentimes. We kind of show up and we participate in these things. And one of the things you want to start to be mindful of is how are you showing up in this space? Thinking about what's behind you, thinking about the space that you're in and the different kind of people that may or may not know that you're in a call. I can't tell you how many times I've been convening people and they're fully engaged, but they forgot to inform everyone else in the house that they were going to be on a conference. And so you just get people moving in the background and so on. And so one of the things you need to do is you have to think through your own environment. Because if you can set yourself up for success, that one of the things that allows then is for you to be able to do this piece around connection before content. So one of the things that we really start to strive is that we all came here for connection and conversation. That's my hypothesis. That we were looking to be able to have a conversation, we're looking for a connection. And what's happening in the first 5 minutes of some sort of convening that you're doing, either in person or online, is that we're all wondering, will I be able to take a passive engagement? Is something going to be expected of me here? Will I be able to be muted and turn off my camera? Or is this something in which I'm going to need to be called upon to where I'm making connections to others? And so you really have to start thinking through, how are you looking to be able to convene people together? And so I take the position to the idea that people have not arrived until their voices have been heard. And their voice doesn't need to be heard by everyone. Anytime that you're convening 4 or more people online, I'm constantly using small groups. So different platforms, different technologies, call them different things, but being able to get people into the place of going and saying, you've made a commitment. So even like this, convening here, one of the things that I'm deeply curious about is that each of you have made a commitment to being here. You've shown up. And why was it important for you to show up? Why was it important for you to be here? And having a conversation with one other person, two other people, really gets us now to a level of connection that we would not necessarily have if we are taking a posture of listening. And so I think that people are showing up to the convenings that we're doing for connection and conversation. And so how do you elevate that? A design principle that we utilize is that if we're going to convene people for an hour, we want to target for 30 minutes of conversation. So 50% of it being in conversation. And that's what was being referred to earlier as we were designing the conference experience. How do we get people into conversations? And then the last thing that I want to bring our attention to is that how do you break up the space by introducing art into the process? How do you have music, or how do you have poetry or visual art to be a part of it? Because the arts create a way of connection that is different than conversation is. And that becomes very important. And I want to end with this because I'm just kind of touching on a couple of key pieces. And then any of you that have questions, I'm glad to kind of go deeper on some of those. One of them is a poem that I want to read here in closing called Brave Space. Together, we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in a real world. We all carry scars and we've all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify the voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and to more love. We have the right to start somewhere and to continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. I believe that each of you are creating those brave spaces, especially within the local economy, being able to gather and to convene people together. I commend you for the work that you are doing, and I am honored to be a part of this conversation with you.
Wow, thank you. And this is why the conference was so amazing. Is that what you just said? Is that something you can share?
Yeah.
With us? One of the things I do after these local leaders roundtables is to send everybody who attended connection to everyone else so you can reach out. And that includes our speakers and things like what the software was called, and what was said, and some notes on the meeting. So I see several people taking notes. I was, Darin. Thank you so much. And so does anybody have any questions for Darin specifically? And then we'll open it up to just talk.
Darin, I have a logistics question.
Please.
This is kind of a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
You get people on Zoom, you schedule, so let me back up. I had a call last week with 3 attorneys we needed to talk to. Is actually to renew their sponsorship for next year. They're one of our larger sponsors. They're all partners in this firm. right? So we schedule a time for Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock for us to join on Zoom. All of them show up on time.
Mhm.
All three of them leave their camera off, and I'm the only one on camera.
Mhm.
I didn't say anything, but it's like, why are we doing this on Zoom if we're, not going to be on camera? And before I brought this up, I made sure everybody here was on camera, which you are. Congratulations. I'm glad to see that.
Yep.
Any suggestions on how tactfully to encourage people to turn their cameras on?
Yes, part of it is in before even getting on Zoom. And so that it's a simple sentence in the correspondence. Hey, we're in convene via Zoom because we get the enhanced ability to be able to see one another. And so you set that expectation at the beginning. And so once you end up doing that, and when you end up having events, you need to spell that out within the requirements as well. So for example, I'm convening anywhere from board meetings to hundreds of folks on Zoom, and being able to have them understand that expectation before they even arrive. So it needs to be built into the communication. Now, part of the reason, one of the things I'll end up saying to this, Colin, which you're not asking, is that what's going on? Why do some people leave their cameras off? And that becomes, I think, an important question to be able to end up asking. One of the things in our research that we found out is that if you're looking at the gallery view, you're seeing everyone, including yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For some of us, watching ourselves is very uncomfortable. And so people will often ask, like, do you have a solution for that? And I do. I have this beautiful high-tech solution, and it's called a sticky note. You literally take the sticky note and put it over yourself on the screen. So all things that you're like running into, or people are just like, I just can't stand watching myself. There's a way that you can solve that. And that is, instead of just turning off your camera, just put a sticky note on the screen to cover up your own picture. So.
Great note. It's very difficult. We're talking about connecting with people. It is so difficult to connect with a bunch of names across the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You need those faces. We're human beings. We need to see other human beings.
Yeah.
So I agree, Colin. It's a pet peeve of mine too. Thanks for bringing that up. So let's just open this up to anybody. Let's hear from some other people about good experiences of events online, bad experiences. Could be your events, could be somebody else's events, could be what's your dream event online. Anybody have anything?
I want to touch real quick on some what Jennifer was talking about regarding the networking. What we've done here in Kalamazoo, like I mentioned earlier, I'm brand new with Buy Local Kalamazoo, and I came on board with them because I started a Facebook group during the pandemic. It's called Kalamazoo Menu, and it's to support the local restaurants, and it was to help all the everybody in our community get together with the restaurants. But what I also did, to your point about the networking, is we started what we call the owners group. So we have over 300 restaurants that are on that group alone. So on the main group, we have 36,000 people that are all talking about whatever the special of the day is. But for the networking for the restaurants, we have this special owners group, and so it's not an organized, we're going to get together and talk and network specifically, but it's, hey, I'm out of, or I'm having problems with, or I'm trying to get the grant. So you're seeing this huge interaction of 300 people, 300 businesses being all represented and talking all at the same time, and they're all commiserating and trying to figure out. So, and to your point about the $99 a month, this was free and it's easy, and it takes away from what somebody had mentioned about they kind of get shy. With the Zoom meetings, people still like to kind of hide themselves a little bit. But when we're doing the Facebook thing, they can post their thought, their comment, their need, whatever, and then somebody will get back to it. And when you got 300 people are responding within seconds. So it's a great way for everybody to network, still be anonymous. And what we've noticed is they've built this relationship that it's actually been wonderful to watch. These people, when we were still in the pandemic, but out of the shutdown, we're in Michigan, we're back in the shutdown, but these people would actually get together for cocktails because they met in the group. They never knew each other. So it was a soft opening for them, is my point. So something to think about, to take a little bit of that stress of, you know, I want to sit in the corner and not meet people. This was a way to slowly build that relationship for them. So just food for thought.
That's awesome. And it sounds like a great success. So congratulations on that. You know,
Thank you. It was, I sit back every day and we're so damn proud of what was gone on here in Kalamazoo because of it. It's been silly. It's been wonderful to watch.
And to bring people together in a time of really needing each other,
Yep.
builds relationships in a way that the big success times don't necessarily do. I mean, I think it builds community that way.
And that was really the beginning of why we started the main group. And then as soon as we started that, we realized, oh, we need to open up for the owners so they can commiserate. And you know what we're seeing is these guys are, hey, I'm out of pretzel buns. Oh, I got extra pretzel buns. So they were, you know, or hey, I need a new dish machine or whatever, or I'm going out of business. I'm selling all my wares. So it has been, but you're right, the sense of community has been spectacular. So anyhow, just again, food for thought, and it's free. So, you know, and everybody knows how to run a Facebook group. So except us, when we first started, I didn't know how to. I do now.
But you figure it out. And that's what I love about having all these different options and different levels of ways to just get started. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Mark. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I agree. Our business member Facebook group has been extra busy during the pandemic. Everything from, you know, unemployment and how's that working for you to, you know, the city grants and like what's going on there. So it also enables me to, you know, be a liaison with other groups and say, hey, I'm hearing all this from my members. You know, what can we do about that?
Absolutely. Like I to that point, I have a friend of mine who's a state senator, and he's on the board with all the restaurants, and you know, he's part of what's going on with our shutdown. And our restaurants were freaking out, didn't know what to do. So I had him write up a little, hey guys, it's going to be okay. This is what's going on, because we're not getting a lot of information, behind the scenes information. So he kind of was able to share some information. And you're right, we've put other people in contact with point of sale people, and it's just been a wonderful thing for, hey, you guys have a need for this, so we're helping them. So it's a great way for everybody to really communicate. So
that sounds awesome. Looks like we lost Colin and now he's coming back. Anybody else have anything they want to share or ask or anything, comment on?
I just wanted to ask, oh, sorry, Mariah, didn't mean to stop.
You started, go for it.
For anyone that's hosting networking events, have you found a sweet spot in terms of like time of day of the week that works best for your members for when they're available? I mean, it's so busy for everybody right now.
Evening has been tough for us, you know, after 5 o'clock. And we kind of thought maybe it would be better because, you know, like parents with kids home for NTI and, you know, all that craziness, but we still had attendance, but we have more when we hold it during the day, during the work day.
What time do you hold it?
We've done 10 and noon, kind of depending on what the other organization is looking for. I saved the 4 o'clock slots for our committee meetings.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Awesome. Mariah, did you want to have something to say?
Yeah, I was just reflecting. The people, we have a networking class and an anti-networking class among our very diverse membership. You know, the consultants and the real estate agents and all those, you know, there's a certain kind of person, B2B focused, that really want to get in there, and, you know, they would love your program, Jennifer, like they'd be all over that. But then we have our restaurant owners and retailers and people who are really overwhelmed and stressed and see no benefit to networking. And I'm just curious for the whole group, if the networking, if you see sort of a concentration of business types showing up for that service, and that's okay, and that's just your audience for that activity, or if you found ways to engage the rest of the membership in an activity that they think they don't want or need. Is there any wisdom from
We definitely have, you know, a mix. I would say that yes, we do have more of the folks that are in jobs where they need to network to be successful, you know. But I've also seen, you know, like our local natural food store was on there, and you know, so it is a bit of a mix. But I don't ever want it to be the only thing we offer, because specifically for that reason, there are folks who are just not interested in networking, but they do want to have the education aspect and things like that. So we went to the extreme at the beginning of the pandemic and just dropped all networking. So it was nice to bring it back in a way that's pretty easy to execute, that we don't have to spend a lot of staff time on, to give that avenue for the people who want it, you know? I guess
and
it's
for that software, what was it called? Hopin.
Hopin.
People don't have to create a profile or anything, do they? They can just click a link and show up.
They do need to create a profile, actually. So it's not really a social networking type of site or anything like that, but they create an account.
Okay.
And they use that account.
Having to do that.
I'm sorry?
My members would resent having to do that. They're like, I will shoot you in the face if you make me create one more account.
Well, if there are other places
here, we're a bunch of anarchistic lumberjacks or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hopin doesn't email you though. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, you can't just show up, because then they can't do the random pairing and all that stuff. And, you know, and also because of all the different things that Hopin does, you know, like we just use the networking part so far anyway, but there are, you know, a lot of other things to go on, you know. I have an administrator account, so I have the Hopin side that's just me attending like Tawana's events, like the other organization that we found out about it from. But then there's my, you know, running my events side to it too. So there's both for me. But it has started to take off here locally anyway. Tawana was the first one I knew about it, using it, but then Wipeout, the Young Professionals Association started using it. Somebody else just started using it recently. And so I don't know. I guess it depends how popular it gets.
You're setting a trend there. Well, we are just about out of time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's schedule. So I want to thank our three speakers of Colin and Jennifer and Darin. Great information. And we will follow up with an email to everyone outlining a little bit of what we talked about. The video of this conversation today will be up on our YouTube channel, so you can go watch it again and pick out that one sentence you were trying to get. But I want to thank everyone for being here, and our speakers, y'all were just magnificent. Thank you so very much. So I hope that you all join us in January, second Thursday of the month, where we will take you on a tour of the new website and talk about some new features that will be offered to members of Amoeba, that I think you'll be pretty excited about. So great to see all of you, and thank you one and all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for running the show.
Everybody take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.